Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Kazuyuki Fujita to defeat Vanderlei Silva. And I'm here to talk about Sam Patterson versus Yohan Lainesse. Patterson is 10-2-1 as a pro, 27 years old, and he's got 2 inches of height and 2 inches of reach over 31-year-old Yohan Lainesse, who is 9-2 as a pro. Sam Patterson's taking this fight at 170. He's moving up in weight. And I think if the reasoning behind that is to protect his chin, I agree with the move wholeheartedly. Because he's got to take steps to protect his chin. And hopefully he's doing that in the training room as well. I think he's got to have his left hand taped to his chin. Because he's been beaten twice and both losses look exactly the same. And they're 10 fights apart. So got to protect himself. But offensively, there's a lot of upside with Sam Patterson. He's still young and healthy, theoretically, 27 years old, and the upside is definitely there. He's got a versatile skill set and very dangerous. He's a potent finisher so far. 9 out of his 10 wins are finishes. 4 knockouts, 5 submissions, and just 1 decision, in case you couldn't do the math. 5 submissions. He's got 1 rear naked choke in his most recent win, and then 4 guillotine chokes. That's his move, the guillotine choke. And he even used the guillotine to kind of set up the rear naked choke. But the guillotine is where it's at, and he's got those long arms, which he can use to lace up chokes. And he's comfortable being pressured in that sense. But he still has some vulnerabilities on the feet. Like I said, those 2 losses, they're both knockouts, and they're both overhand rights early. And even aside from the actual knockouts, he's looked really vulnerable, just susceptible to that right hand. And that's in any stance, but he often switches to the karate stance and does the Wonder Boy thing, but he doesn't have the agility of Wonder Boy. And he's susceptible to, of course, low kicks. You know, a nice welterweight leg kick will have you rethinking that karate stance. And also, the hands are down often, you know. So he's really got to brush up on that defense. But striking-wise, he's not bad at all. Knocked out Felipe Silva, former UFC fighter, many moons ago. And he knocked him out with a beautiful left hand, I think, coming in as Felipe was coming in. TKO'd the guy Osmaev on Brave FC, which again, I love Brave FC. Every fight of theirs is on YouTube, and he's got 6 fights there. Seen them all, and they're on YouTube. So really makes it easy to break down fighters. And he went 5-0-1 in Brave FC. The one draw is to this guy Amir, I think, or whatever, but it was a close fight. He was going for a guillotine for 10 minutes pretty much and being taken down. He was defending and going for a guillotine. And then the 3rd round, he beat the shit out of the guy and definitely won the war, but it was ruled a draw. So that is what it is. But even there, the guillotine, even though it didn't work for him and win the fight for him, it certainly worked in a defensive sense and stopped the guy from advancing on him. And made for a shitty fight, too. But he's gotten plenty of finishes down the stretch. As I mentioned, he looked good in that draw down the stretch. A strong round 3 after 2 grimy, taxing rounds 1 and 2. And in other fights, he's finished guys deep into the fight. The guy Vinicius on the Contender Series, that was round 2. And then his other 2 previous finishes, I think, are both in round 2. TKO'd the guy Osmaev and got a guillotine over the Magomedov guy, which the name alone is impressive. But yeah, there's a lot of upside with Sam Patterson. He's already beaten a good caliber of opponent on the outside. It's just the vulnerabilities that are glaring. It might, I'm sure he's working on the technical aspect of protecting himself, but he might just be one of the more fragile fighters, being tall and thin and all that. I don't know what the hell that has to do with anything. Nate Diaz looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Yohan Lainesse, he is a welterweight, and he is staying at welterweight for this fight. He's got 6 wins via knockout in his 9 wins, and the other 3 by decision. Not much of a submission threat on paper, but he's a good, well-versed fighter. He's gone for submissions anyway. He's got, as I mentioned, 6 wins by knockout, a beautiful flying knee over this guy Rufati. It's the only strike he landed, and it was a killer. He beat Evan Cutts, a good, capable fighter. Knocked him out in round 2 with body shots. Beat Justin Burlinson with a beautiful knockout. Few hooks, but really one of them did him in, and he was unconscious there. And he's gotten some other good wins as well. Of course, in the UFC, he beat Darian Weeks. Very close fight. Really could have gone either way, especially upon rewatch. But still, Yohan looked good. I've seen all 3 of his decision fights. He fought this guy, Tony something. Tony Green, I think. Tony Green. And the guy Tony Green looked like a real workhorse. And it looked like he was starting to outwork Yohan Lainesse in a close fight where I thought they were even. I thought they were even going into round 3, and Yohan Lainesse, where it looked like he was going to be the one fading, ripped Tony to the mat and passed and put him in a deep arm triangle to close out the round. And it wasn't just some lucky positional thing. He made that shit happen. So he showed him what cardio was there, and he won the fight. And even his other decision victories, a little more dominant. That was earlier on against this guy Burton or whatever. But Yohan looked good down the stretch. He lost 2 fights. He's lost one by TKO to Gabe Green, one to Mike Malott by arm triangle choke. The Battle for Canada, or whatever that was. And both were in the UFC. He was beaten by Gabe Green, who is, Gabe Green the profile's changed since he's been knocked out in 10 seconds. But Gabe Green typically can take it, and he's a real gritty fighter. And he was able to beat Yohan Lainesse in the middle of round 2 after Yohan had him hurt. Mike Malott was able to take him down towards the end of round 1 and choke him out pretty quickly. I think Mike Malott is just a level or 2 above Yohan Lainesse, to be honest. But I can't say that for sure about Sam Patterson. And Yohan Lainesse, he's my pick in this fight. I think Yohan Lainesse, there's a chance if he doesn't impose himself, he could fall apart and get tapped out by Sam Patterson towards the end of this fight or in the second half. But I think Yohan is going to be able to bully Sam Patterson around. I think he is going to make him feel some welterweight power. I think Sam Patterson does have a potentially weak chin, but even otherwise, his striking leaves him vulnerable. And a guy like Yohan is just that next level of power and danger where I think Sam Patterson is not going to be able to fight comfortably and make the most of his reach and height. So Yohan Lainesse is going to win this fight. That's my prediction. I think there's a good chance he'll win by knockout, but even if he doesn't, I see him landing the more powerful shots and scoring the more powerful points, and of course having a Canadian crowd to back him up. Yohan Lainesse is the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.